Thank you so much for attending our kickoff event keynote for this year's Mario A.J. Bennekin Black History Symposium. I'm Sally Robertson, and I'm honored once again to be the committee's co-chair for this year's symposium. Let's give one more round of applause to our Perimeter College Jazz Lab Band, which you just heard. Let me tell their names before you applaud them. These music students are Cedric Evans, Rex Kilcullen, Indiana Lawson, and Tyler Richardson. They are pathway students in music, and we're so glad to have them here. Now I'd like to invite you to extend a warm greeting to Dr. M. Brian Blake, the 8th president of Georgia State University. Dr. Blake will give our symposium welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Robertson. So gosh, we got to give another round of applause for our Perimeter College Jazz Band. I've got to ask them to come to my office and see if I can get that every day, just as we start the day. So let me also welcome everyone here for our Mario A.J. Bennekin Black History Symposium at GSU. On behalf of the President's Office, the Office of the Provost, our Perimeter College and Dean, it's just an honor to welcome you all here. I think this is my 5th year opening this, and just a fantastic time. I know we've been doing it for 6 years, and it's been great to gather here during Black History Months to host this important symposium. This year is especially meaningful. It marks 100 years since scholar and historian Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week in 1926, the precursor to what we now celebrate as Black History Month. This year's theme is the Black History Movement Turns 100, rooted in legacy, growing through education. This theme would have resonated deeply with Professor Mario Bennekin, for whom this symposium is named. Professor Bennekin taught history at Perimeter College for more than 20 years. He believed in the power of historical understanding, not only to inform, but to empower. Over the coming days, we honor his legacy through sessions across our campuses dedicated to exploring, elevating, and celebrating African American history. We're especially grateful to be joined this morning by members of the Bennekin family, including Mario's wife, Dr. Kimberly Bennekin, Professor of Mathematics at the Perimeter College. She attends the day with her son, Asa Bennekin. Each year is like a reunion here, so let me also recognize Mario's parents, Mr. Jacob Bennekin and Mrs. Lithonia Bennekin. And Professor Bennekin's mom, Miss Gloria Rice. A few others in the audience, let me thank you for welcoming me here yet again, the Dean of Perimeter College, Dr. Barbara Johnson. Her predecessor and our Associate Provost for Strategic Initiative, Dr. Cynthia Lester. And I'm told that Miss Allison Mercer is here as well, but I have not seen her yet. Let's see if she's, right there. So thank you, Ms. Mercer, for being here. All right, so let me just say a couple words about today's speaker. I know he's going to get a longer introduction. Dr. Maurice Hobson's Chair of Africana Studies in the College of Arts and Sciences is going to be our featured speaker today. Dr. Hobson is an outstanding scholar whose work has significantly shaped our understanding of African American history and urban experience. He's also a friend and a fraternity brother, and I'm grateful for his leadership and continued commitment to the university. This is a great turnout, though. Every attendee here today, your work and your presence makes this gathering both meaningful and impactful. As we open this year's symposium, it's our hope that today's kickoff is both educational and inspirational. More broadly, we hope this week reminds us of the enduring contributions African Americans have made and continue to make to our nation's story. History is not simply something we study, it is something we carry forward. It shapes how we understand ourselves, it informs how we lead, it challenges us to build a future worthy of those who came before us. And in that spirit, let me welcome you again to the symposium. Thank you again for being here, and go Panthers.
Thank you so much, President Blake, for that gracious welcome. Now, I'm going to ask the Perimeter College Chorale to come to the stage. There's a bunch of them, so I'll talk a little slower while they come on downstage. This is the Perimeter College Chorale under the direction of Dr. Keith Walker, who also teaches in our music program. Accompanying them will be our collaborative pianist, Ms. Hannah Young. After the performance from our chorale, 4 of our Dean's Ambassadors will come up to give us the occasion. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Hello, everyone. My name is Aman Mohammed, and I'm a Perimeter Ambassador for the Dunwoody campus and the Perimeter College at large. On behalf of everyone involved with the symposium, thank you for being here and for helping carry forward a powerful legacy. This symposium began with a vision, one that Dr. Mario Bennekin shared when he organized the first event back in 2015. He believed that learning from our past is essential to understanding who we are and where we're going. As a history professor, he taught with honesty and purpose, making sure his students saw themselves reflected in stories of African and African American life. After his passing, the symposium was officially named in his honor in 2021, supported by an incredible fundraising effort that raised $60,000 to create an endowment. Since then, it has grown to include faculty, students, and community voices across all Perimeter College campuses. Greetings. My name is Iman Mohammed Shehu. Today we recognize the family who has continued to carry that legacy forward. His wife, Dr. Kimberly Bennekin, their son Asa, and his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob Bennekin. They are part of a proud tradition of HBCU graduates, community leaders, and educators who embody the very values Dr. Bennekin stood for. At this time, we invite the Bennekin family to stand, if they would like, so we can thank them for their ongoing support and for keeping Dr. Bennekin's vision alive through this important work. Let's show our appreciation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cece Vaughn. Ooh, I didn't even give you a chance to. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. That's awesome. I'm Cece Vaughn. As we gather today for the Mario A.J. Bennekin Black History Symposium, we pause to reflect on the incredible legacy of the man whose name this event proudly bears. Dr. Mario Bennekin was more than a professor. He was a visionary who believed deeply in the power of history, education, and community. He understood that he was part of a much larger story, one woven with threads of leadership, service, scholarship, and love. Let's give a round of applause, y'all.
Greetings, everyone. I am May Khan. Each year, we include a special kente pattern on the symposium flyer. This year's design features the Sankofa bird, a powerful symbol reminding us to go back and get it, to carry lessons from the past as we move toward the future. Dr. Bennekin believed that with education comes tolerance. Today, through your presence, your voices, and your work, we continue to honor that belief and keep this tradition strong. Thank you for being part of this occasion and for helping us grow this vision together. And now, let's welcome Dr. Barbara Johnson, Dean of Perimeter College. She will introduce this morning's keynote speaker.
Let's give our perimeter ambassadors a round of applause. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here to help us kick off this year's Mario A.J. Bennekin Symposium. This symposium has become a signature event for Perimeter College and is a stellar example of how scholarship, shared inquiry, and community intersect in ways that truly enrich the student experience. This morning, it is my privilege to introduce a scholar whose work not only informs the Academy, but also resonates far beyond it. Dr. Maurice Hobson is a historian, author, social scientist, advocate, thought leader, and producer. All roles he embodies with a rare combination of rigor and clarity. He currently serves as professor and chair of the Department of Africana Studies at Georgia State University. He is the author of the award-winning book titled The Legend of Black Mecca: Politics and Class in the Making of Modern Atlanta, and the lead historian for With Faith in God and Heart and Mind, A History of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. Dr. Hobson advances a new paradigm he calls the Black New South, a framework that explores the experiences of Black people in the American South after World War II, with national and international implications. His expertise as an expert witness in court cases and as a voice of insight for public historical markers, monuments, and museum exhibitions have helped shape our histories and ensure that they are told with integrity and depth. Many of you may recognize him from popular media. Dr. Hobson has served as either a producer, chief historian, expert, or a consulting historian for numerous documentaries and films, including The Art of Organized Noise, a Netflix documentary, Hip Hop Evolution Atlanta, ESPN's 30 for 30 Vic, HBO documentaries Atlanta's Missing and Murdered, The Lost Children, the award-winning iHeart podcast and NBC Peacock show Fight Night and the $1 Million Heist, This World Is Not My Own documentary through PBS, and a German production called America Without Makeup with Germany's centralized national public TV. I could go on and on about Dr. Hobson. I'll give you a few more though. Dr. Hobson has also served as a host for WABE's three-time Emmy award-winning television show titled Redefining History: The Atlanta Race Massacre and Great Migrations, A People on the Move, a four-part docuseries exploring the transformative impact of Black migration on American culture and society, which he hosted and produced with Henry Louis Gates on PBS. I could go on, as I said, there's more. I could go on about his deeply impactful body of work and the many accolades that he has received, but you didn't come to hear me talk today about him. You want to hear from him. So I invite you to visit the symposium's website if you want to see the many other achievements that he has achieved. At this moment, it is my honor to ask you to join me in offering a warm and enthusiastic welcome to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Maurice J. Hobson.
All right. So today's topic that we're going to discuss is titled An Unusual Emphasis on Scholarship, Carter G. Woodson, Omega Psi Phi, The Power of Black History. Now, as I stated before, how I got involved in doing this project is in 2015, I think it was November 23rd, 2015, I was approached by a mentor of mine by the name of Derek Ulrich, Dr. Derek Ulrich at the University of Virginia, to write a piece for this particular book, The Black Intellectual Tradition, to discuss Black Greek letter organizations. The entry that I put into this particular book is called Tackling the Talented 10th, Black Greek lettered organizations in the Black and South. And what I discussed in this is I did a deep dive on all of the National Pan-Atlantic Council organizations and their particular foundings, okay? And so each one of the organizations has a distinctive founding in a particular location. Of course, 5 of them are founded at Howard University. But what's particular about this is that in the process of this, I was able to make the distinction between how Alpha Phi Alpha was founded versus how Kappa Alpha Psi was founded. And we do all of the organizations. Each one has their own mandated programs. But one of the things that became increasingly interesting about Omega Psi Phi that most don't know is that Omega Psi Phi, when founded on November 17th, 1911, on the campus of Howard University at Thurkill Hall, with 3 undergraduate students, and a renowned scientist, is that Omega Psi Phi was founded as a mechanism against lynching. And so the whole notion of friendship is essential to the soul took place because in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, there were a series of lynchings that were taking place. And they were lynching Black college men because they wanted to put them back in their place. And so the whole notion of Omega Psi Phi in terms of friendship is essential to the soul comes from that. And so this is why I distinctively have to talk about Omega Psi Phi in a particular kind of way. Now, much of what you're about to hear today comes from this book, With Faith in God and Heart and Mind, A History of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. It was commissioned by Grand Basileus Dr. David Marion in 2018 when he originally reached out to me about writing this book. He's a native Jacksonian as well. I initially told him no because I didn't want the pressure of it, and I just produced a new book. However, I am a member of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and every year the historians who were members of Omega Psi Phi would all go to the bar, have a drink, and we would talk about how we needed a new history. And the fact that I was asked and I actually do history, I obliged, and I told him, I said, I will do this, but you have to let me do it how I do it. And so this is the first official fraternity history since 1962, in 63 years. And it's the first of any Black Greek letter, official Black Greek letter organization to be published by a university press. What this means is that this will circulate in every library. It will get reviews from all of the major journals in African American history. It will be reviewed in all of the major newspapers and tabloids. Now, the thing about this, and I want to give you all context when we talk about African American history. The early forms of African American history were often created not for Black empowerment, but to convince white America that Black people were not savages. You can see the images on the screen. The top image is a picture of the first Black history book written called The History of the Negro Race from 1619 to 1880. It was written by a man by the name of George Washington Williams. And the whole goal of it was to push forth this idea that Black people actually have a history. The bottom picture is somewhat propaganda. It's an art piece called The Banjo Player. And what you see is a grandfather kind of figure who is teaching his grandson how to play the banjo. It's showing the transition of culture of older cultures to newer cultures. And the reason that this was done is that there were many forms or many ideas around this notion that Black people were not savages and that Black history and Black art served as this propaganda to do so. This is what it was combating, were minstrel images. Now, I want to give you the context on this, and this will be very quick in how I do this, okay? When the U.S. Constitution was written, race nor slavery was put into the document because it was nebulous. There was no real concept on where things were. It's not until 1793 on the coast of Georgia in Savannah that a man by the name of Eli Whitney sees an enslaved African mechanic who is able to create an apparatus that pulls the seed from a cotton bud. And what happens with this is all of the land that was good and ripe to grow cotton to make this nation wealthy were in areas that were occupied by indigenous people. And so there was a rounding up of indigenous folk, taking them to Oklahoma to cultivate this land. I'm giving you this because in 1793, when this happens, the American South had been given 20 years to import what we call saltwater Africans. So as a result of this, in terms of that, the American South had until 1808 to basically immigrate or traffic as many Africans as they possibly could for the benefit of American slavery. But cotton has now become king. And so at the onset of the nation, you could already see the American South starting to teeter as if this relationship wasn't going to work. In order to maintain this idea that African descended people were inferior, they produced these notions called minstrel images. And what this was it would usually be a white ethnic actor, Irish, Italian, who would burn a cork, put on blackface, create these exaggerated notions on who Black people were. As you can see here, this promotes all kinds of stereotypes and whatnot. But the reason it was done is that if you could convince the world that Black folk were inferior, then we can maintain an economic structure. What comes out of this, though, is that most of what we see in terms of African American history is combating this idea. And we see this fall out with this conversation between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. Now, quite honestly, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois should have not been ever pitted against each other. I see Dr. Ruby Manley out here in the crowd, and I know she's out here teaching good on this perimeter campus. There were other conversations, but Atlanta, Georgia plays an extremely important role in this conversation. Of course, in 1895, Booker T. Washington, who's the principal of Tuskegee Institute, gives a lecture that W.E.B. Du Bois would later call the Atlanta Compromise. And the thing about it is you got to understand the difference between Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was born into slavery. W.E.B. Du Bois was born free in New England. You shouldn't compare them to each other. But one of the things that Booker T. Washington does in this talk in Piedmont Park, in Midtown Atlanta, is he says in all things political and social, we can be as separate as an open hand. In all things economic, we can be as equal as a closed fist. The U.S. Supreme Court utilizes that language and codifies segregation into law after the Plessy versus Ferguson case. And so with this being said, a lot of what comes out of this conversation is that W.E.B. Du Bois writes a book called The Souls of Black Folk. And it is here to where you see the showdown between liberal arts education and industrial education on what the future of Black America would be. But then we must insert Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Hold on. All right, it's jammed up on me. If you could advance it. Technology never acts right when you want it to. There it is. So go back one, I believe, actually. Yes. So Dr. Carter G. Woodson was a visionary scholar. He was a prominent scholar. He establishes the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. It is now the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. He also founds the Journal of Negro History. He authored several major treatises that include the education to the Negro prior to 1861, and he achieved his PhD from Harvard University, becoming the second to do so after W.E.B. Du Bois. This is the thing about Dr. Woodson. After giving a lecture at Howard University in 1917, he was offered membership into Omega Psi Phi fraternity, honorary membership into Omega Psi Phi fraternity. He was already established. He was one of the charter members of Epsilon Boule of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, so he wasn't new to it. He was widely regarded as the leading scholar in the world on where things go. But what's particular about this is in this lecture that he gives at the Lyceum at Howard University, he does a lecture called Democracy and the Man Far Down. He also, because of this, he's invited to the 1920 conclave, which is held in Nashville, Tennessee. And what comes from this is he emphasizes the crucial need for Black people to learn their own history, to build an autonomous economic base through Black-owned businesses. The speech was the foundational piece for his famous book, The Miseducation of the Negro, that discusses the conversation when you condition the mind of a people to go through the back door. They'll go through the back door even when they're able to go through the front door. And one of the things he pushes for this is that when you know history, history is a weapon. And so the catalyst for this is from his 1920 speech. This was instrumental in positioning Omega Psi Phi at the forefront of the early Black history movement and challenging these historical inaccuracies. This right here is a banner that speaks to Negro Achievement Week. This is what it was called as this was Omega Psi Phi's first national program. Because this was inspired by Woodson's message, the forceful nature of this conclave pushed Omega Psi Phi to robustly adopt this aspect of racial advancement. A pivotal decision was made where delegates voted to designate a week for a campaign for the study of Negro literature and history. Negro at this time was the appropriate term for African descended people. The significance of it is because it becomes the fraternity's first mandated program. However, the aim of it was to introduce the world to the Negro and at the same time introduce the Negro to himself through Black history. What also comes from this though, and there's an early campaign and there's a later campaign to how this works, is that how we look at this is that Omega chapters, after leaving the conclave, actively participated through educational exercises, newspaper articles in their local campus papers, and literature distribution. We see the promotion of a slogan that stated, "Know thyself," emphasizing the importance of racial history and intellectual growth. We see the expansion of Negro History Week around the nation because each chapter of Omega Psi Phi took this notion to their respective campuses. And so what they would do is this notion was invited to hundreds of campuses. I'm gonna break from the script just for a second, really quickly here. One of the things that we were able to detail in the new Omega Psi Phi history book is that Omega Psi Phi, founded in 1911, after its first decade, it was struggling because it had created too many programs to really hold down. They couldn't keep up with everything. But what they do is that there was a member by the name of Theophilus McKinney, who was a registrar at North Carolina A&T University, what is now North Carolina Agricultural and Technical University. And he creates this Black college accrediting program that would move historically Black colleges that were normal schools and create them as colleges and universities. It would shift the curriculum. And so what Omega Psi Phi does as a result of that is they begin to charter chapters at these newly minted colleges. Because in order for a chapter to be there, so you see this spread that goes in a particular kind of way, this kind of expansion. And so what Omega Psi Phi also took a hand in doing is creating universal guidelines. There was a committee that was put together that included Woodson, which formed and developed guidelines for the fostering of Black history in schools and colleges. And we see where there was a fallout that takes place between Carter G. Woodson and Omega Psi Phi behind this. Now, I need to say this about Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He has been gone for more than 75 years. He died in 1950. He was extremely cantankerous. He was mean, okay? And one of the things about him being mean is that because of his cantankerousness, he couldn't always get tenure and promotion when he would go to different institutions. And so he's relieved of duties at Howard University. He ends up going to West Virginia State College at the time to teach, and he falls out with the provost at that particular institution. And so what happens with this is that because Carter G. Woodson had created the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, he decided that he would just go into private sector Black history. And the fact that Omega Psi Phi had taken over this notion of his hustle, there was a fallout that takes place with the fraternity. Okay. And so what comes from this in a particular kind of way is that they had this big shouting match, Carter G. Woodson and Omega Psi Phi. Carter G. Woodson believes that he is ousted from the fraternity. What happens though is in 1925, the Grand Conclave of Omega Psi Phi is hosted in Tuskegee, Alabama. And Carter G. Woodson is invited back to speak. And that's where we find out that he believes that he has been ousted from the fraternity. If you know anything about, has anyone here ever been to Tuskegee, Alabama? Been to the campus at Tuskegee? It's in a rural area in the Alabama Black Belt. Robert Russa Moulton, the principal at the time, had so much power that he was able to stave off the Ku Klux Klan and to get trains that would run from all of the major hubs in the United States to Tuskegee for a conclave to take place in Tuskegee, Alabama. And it's here that Omega Psi Phi fraternity committed to life membership in the association. They voted to reinstate Black history and the Black history and literature campaign, and they renamed it Achievement Week. For those who are members of Omega Psi Phi, this is starting to make sense in a different kind of way. What also comes from this is we see that there's a new observance that moved it to November, which is the founding month of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and it distinguishes itself as something totally different than Negro History Week, which was launched by Carter G. Woodson in February of 1926. What comes from this is even during the Great Depression of 1929, 1930, the fraternity and Carter G. Woodson worked together to stress the importance of Black history and to understand and appreciate the Black community and Black achievements, because they understood that these privatized, autonomous industries and organizations is what would preserve the Black race. Now, this right here is a primary source that connotes of Dr. Carter G. Woodson's passing in 1950. Because of his role in Omega Psi Phi, Omega Men celebrated his contribution in multiple ways. Um, Part of it is really including him in terms of Negro History Week. This grew, it was pushed to thousands of schools. What we also see here is that there is significant evolution in terms of how this would be celebrated on particular campuses and in particular locales. In 1976, President Gerald Ford enacts this notion of Black History Month. Now, oftentimes when you talk to cynics and sidesteppers and naysayers and all kinds of different things, they say, oh, you know, they give us Black history in the shortest month of the year. It's not because it's the shortest month of the year. It's because Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass were both born during this year. And those amongst others, were considered to be stalwarts on what would make Black History Month so important. For those who are paying attention, Black History Month is established in 1976. And what's really particular about this is the TV show Roots debuts in 1977. There's a direct correlation between understanding the notion of the origins of race relations in the United States when Roots debuts. Now, I'm moving towards the end as we kind of work through this. I want to show you all some of the ongoing commemorative ideas around Carter G. Woodson's legacy and Omega Psi Phi. In 1975, they unveiled the bronze marker commemorating his work. In 1983, he's featured on the cover of the Oracle, which is the major organ for Omega Psi Phi fraternity, as the father of Black history. In 1984, there's a U.S. postal stamp that is released in his name. In terms of 1991, Omega Men reaffirmed the concerns about the exclusion of Black history. This is a part of our program. And in 1993, we see the creation or the support for the Carter G. Woodson Educational Center. What's particular about this, though, and I want you all to see this in multiple ways because I got to bring this home. The idea around all of this is that the notion of Negro Achievement Week, the notion of Negro History Week, Omega Psi Phi's involvement in taking it to particular locales really pushes forth this idea on how Omega Psi Phi becomes a vehicle of spreading the news. Now, this gives me a particular point. We live in a time and place to where we're seeing all kind of mergings of fields and, you know, what's being taught and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is that we should never really depend on the schools to teach our children this history. There has to be a notion of self-determination. When Carter G. Woodson created the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, it wasn't for academics who were trying to get tenured and promoted. It wasn't for new scholars who were trying to become stars. It was for anyone of any walk of life that loved African American history, because if you understand African American history, you understand the seeds of democracy. Where I'm coming from on this is that most don't know that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is really demonstrated through the passage of the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment grants freedom. The 14th, non-servitude, is freedom in terms of servitude. The 14th Amendment grants equal protection and due process under the law of citizenship. And the 15th Amendment grants the right to vote. You can change your circumstances if you're able to vote. These three amendments were created for Black communities. So the gist of American democracy is there. But I have to say this to you all. I have a unique position on where I am right now. And I am the chair of Africana Studies at Georgia State University. And one of the things that I have been challenged in doing is how am I going to utilize the strategic plan that's been put forth by the university to not only grow majors, but get students ready for career advancement. And so some of the things that I have been able to do as the chair of Africana Studies in the short time that I've been there is I've had to rethink the ways in which we can offer majors and engage the public in terms of African American history. And in doing so, what I realized is that we have to give students new and innovative ways of understanding and engaging. I want to tell you all something. As it was read before by the dean, I have been fortunate and blessed to participate in all kind of documentaries and TV shows and podcasts, and it's done well for me. The people who know me that I don't know. But one of the things I learned about this is first and foremost, and I'm not talking bad about my students, but students don't read, but they will listen. They will watch. In 2000, my wife has never really heard me say this like this. In 2022, a documentary called Untrapped, The Story of Little Baby, debuted on August 26, 2022. Within that first weekend, it had 7 million views. When I got to work on Monday, I had 2,000 emails. What I realized is if you really want to engage our students, is you have to provide it in sound bites. You have to provide it in public history. You have to put it in terms of where they can understand it. You have to incorporate augmented reality. You have to incorporate virtual reality. You have to get engaged. You have to fly drones and help them to understand the power of aerial histories. This is what we're doing. And if you can look at this, if you see the screen, and I don't know how well you can see, this is the Sweet Auburn district. One of the things that, and I must say this, I have a new dean in the College of Arts and Sciences at Georgia State University, Ty Rosenstiel. He has a lot of great energy and ideas, but one of the things that he says, and I see it as absolute support, is that the Africana Studies Department at Georgia State University is at the end of Auburn Avenue in Atlanta University. And so he's given me the opportunity to engage. So when we talk about the strategic initiatives around college to career, we're talking about our students becoming park rangers. We're talking about our students partnering with city and state governments to understand policy. We're looking at the library sciences. We're looking at the museums. Where I'm coming from on this is as we think about what we can do in terms of promoting Black history in the community, we can do it in our classrooms, but incorporate it in terms of our curriculum that truly makes our students that much more vibrant. So this is my last slide. A lot of you all may not know the power of Auburn Avenue, but it was deemed as the richest Negro street in the world. Some of the best and brightest come off this street. These are some of the locales. There, the Royal Peacock, which was the home of the Chitlin Circuit. So if you were trying to go see Kendrick Lamar in 1930, you would have to go see him at the Peacock, the Royal Peacock. You see Yates and Milton Apothecary. You see Big Bethel Church. You see Ebenezer Church. You see Wheat Street Church. You see Atlanta Life Insurance Company, the Atlanta Daily World. You see the Citizens Trust Bank. And I just want to give you all a context of that. If you're downtown and you stand on the corner of Auburn and Piedmont, you can see the old Citizens Trust building. You can see the Atlanta Daily World, and you can see Atlanta Life. That's the nexus of the Black Mecca. And so what I'm saying to you all is that we can do this in ways that is not deemed as a threat, but what we're doing is we're cultivating our campus communities. We're here in Dunwoody. We have campuses in Decatur. We have campuses in Clarkston. You have Newton. And so the idea of this is if we push and promote place-based research, we can further attain what Dr. Carter G. Woodson has put forward. Thank you all. If you have questions, I'm available. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hobson. That was fabulous.
Thank you.
I learned so much, and I know so many of you did as well. We're going to see if we can get the gremlin to calm down and bring the screen up while we take a couple of questions from the audience. Look at it go.
Gremlin.
Do I have any questions from the audience for Dr. Hobson?
Please don't be shy.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering which documentary specifically was the most, what's the word, emotionally difficult for you to make. I know you've made many documentaries on Black history, so I'm sure one of them's had to have hit you hard. So
this is a great story. The one that was most emotional to make to make was the Maynard documentary. And the reason I say that is I was through a relationship that I had with Maynard Jackson's family. I was chosen to be the historian, so I was the only person in the documentary who didn't know him as like a friend and whatever, whatnot, or somebody who worked in politics with him. But the first book that I wrote, The Legend of the Black Mecca, reopened the Atlanta child murder case. And I had interviewed 10 of the mothers. I had interviewed Wayne Williams multiple times. We looked at all of the data. And so I knew the story on paper. One of the stories I often tell is I was supposed to grow up in Atlanta, and they were killing black kids and nothing was being done. And so I grew up in Alabama as a result of that. But when we actually shot the documentary and they start pulling the footage, and I will never forget this as long as I live, a child was abducted, and they go into this community to have the child's funeral. You see the child's shoe on the ground. And they go into the community and they round up this group of kids. They're not to sing at the funeral. But the children aren't in choir robes and whatnot. And to see the fear and angst of that community and the mothers, it broke me down, because on one level, as a child, I would have fit the stereotype in terms of who was being hunted. But also, I have a child myself. And so the emotion of being able to interview 10 of those mothers and get their story to tell, they would tell me their stories on the worst day of their life, and that they trusted me with that. That is the one that rocked me the most emotionally.
We have, as you see, the corral is ready to rock and roll, but we do have time for one more question.
I'm around later on if y'all need me to.
Yeah, he'll be here to sign his books,
Yeah.
hopefully. I'll go into that later.
Hi, thank you for sharing your thoughts and just sharing your words on for this particular Black symposium. There was something that really caught my eye while you were speaking, and it was how the notion of self-determination is in teaching Black history. As an early education major, I wanted to kind of inquire just a little bit, how do you think that same notion could be extended to secondary or primary education, since it has such emphasis once we are finally considered adults and we're able to kind of go into and go deeper, but how can we start taking root for our younger generation as well? What are your thoughts on that?
So one of the things that I'm working to do right now is I'm working to partner with a NBA Hall of Famer who just so happens to be a member of Omega Psi Phi, and we're trying to create these Saturday Black History schools. Okay, so these are, and they will probably be at Auburn Avenue Research Library, which is the Library of African American History and Culture. But the notion of it is how we really get involved with our early elementary and our middle and secondary school, and even in higher education, is we really have to teach history as the craft of history. History by nature is investigated. There's nothing like being able to watch a student who can go into an archive and recreate a story. I often tell lawyers, the only difference between a lawyer and a historian is text and context. The lawyer pays attention to whether or not the law was broken and whether or not you're guilty or not. Whereas I understand the 100-year arc on why the person was breaking the rule in the first place. And so one of the things that we can do is we can really empower in our communities the teaching of local histories. I think that histories are somewhat more complicated than just Black history and American history and whatnot. This gives me a point to say this. Have any of you all ever taken an American history course at Georgia State? All right. Can you tell me what the name of that course is? Go ahead. Yes.
Survey of U.S. history.
To what? To what year?
It was U.S. history in general.
So
From colonialism to today.
So downtown we split them. So downtown it would be U.S. history to 1877 and U.S. history from 1877 to the present. In African American history is African American history to 1865 and African American history from 1865 to the present. Now, you all notice that there are different years that are put forth, right? One is 1865, one is 1877. What I'm saying to you all is that the reason African American history is so important is because it moves at different paces and it has different meanings and significances. And so, to your point, as an early elementary education major, sure, we teach our young people what they need to learn for the curriculum in school, but we also have to teach them, give them an education that will allow for them to survive in life. That embodies aspects of culture, that embodies aspects of feeling affirmed, that understands the spiritual natures of where people are, that understands when we talk about however which way you understand the cosmology, the culture, how we bury our dead, how we honor our elders. So what we can do in terms of where it is that yeah, we can teach the curriculum as in what you're supposed to cover on this week, but you can also teach emotionally, and we can teach emotionally, but with a spirit of giving, with a spirit of love and compassion, to whereas even if someone doesn't look like you, they understand that you work in their best interest. So I hope I answered that question. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hobson. After our event, we will have a reception. Dr. Hobson will be there. He'll also be signing books. He'll be available in the library. But before then, the very patient Perimeter College Student Chorale has joined us for another musical interlude with Dr. Keith Walker and Hannah Young on the piano. Oh, and I believe we have soloists for this one as well, don't we? Say their names for me because we ran out of programs.
Oh, okay. Our soloists for this piece are Grace Edwards and Mysunte Downer.
Gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
Don't you despair.
Don't you despair.
Look up ahead.
Look up ahead.
The path is there.
The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. I know that you're scared too. And I'm scared too.
But here I am.
But here I am.
Right
Yes.
next to you.
Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love. And lead
All right. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Good. All right. So I'm Cameron Williams, and I joined Dr. Robertson as co-chair for this year's symposium. Dr. Hobson, please join me on the stage. So on behalf of Perimeter College at Georgia State University, it's my honor to present you with this special plaque that reads Georgia State University. So there you go. So Georgia State University, Perimeter College, Mario A.J. Bennekin Black History Symposium, presented to Dr. Maurice J. Hobson, keynote speaker, in recognition of your outstanding contribution to the Mario A.J. Bennekin Black History Symposium, February 16, 2026. Thank you again for making our symposium a success. All right, so let's also offer a hearty applause to our students who participated in this year's symposium. From our Jazz Lab band to our perimeter ambassadors and chorale, they all did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. So now could I get the Bennekin family to come to the front of the stage for their presentation? All right, so none of what we experienced this morning would be possible without Mario Bennekin's family. After his passing in 2019, his wife, Kimberly Bennekin, his son, Asa, his parents, and other family members spearheaded an effort to raise the funds needed to endow the symposium and name it in Professor Bennekin's honor. They received an outpouring of support from so many donors, including from some of you celebrating with us today. So to the Bennekin family, Perimeter College is honored to recognize the Bennekin family for your extraordinary role in helping establish the symposium as a flagship event, not only for our college, but for the entire university community. What began through vision, courage, and commitment has grown into a defining tradition that reflects the very best of who we strive to be. It is our privilege to present you with these framed posters representing all 6 years of the symposium, a visual testament to the impact of his work. At the center of this framing are Professor Mario Bennekin's guiding words: with education comes tolerance. That belief was not simply something he said, it was something he lived, taught, and embodied. It shaped his scholarship, his teaching, and his relationships with students and colleagues alike. We hope this tribute stands as a lasting reminder that Mario's legacy endures, not only in these programs, not only in this symposium, but in the lives he influenced and the lives he helped anchor in our community. To the Bennekin family, thank you for sharing him with us. We are profoundly grateful to each of you. All right. So now I welcome back Dr. Robertson, excuse me, for this morning's closing reflections.
Hello again. We are so excited about this crowd, and I know a bunch of students had to go to class, but still, you all are the best audience ever. I want you to know that. Again, I am Sally Robertson, and I have had the joy and honor of chairing the Bennekin Symposium for the past few years. It has been my distinct honor to lead efforts again this year, this time along with Dr. Cameron Williams. As you might imagine, Dr. Williams nor I could make it through this day without the assistance of a very talented group of faculty and staff colleagues. And I'd like to have the members of the Bennekin Symposium committee that plans this to please stand to be recognized. What you don't see are the folks who are already in the next room getting ready for the reception, and our person in the booth who makes the gremlins go away. I would also like to thank our dedicated Perimeter ambassadors for their participation in the program today. It made it so special to have all of you here, both to meet the Bennekins, meet the audience, the keynote, but also to graciously speak about Dr. Bennekin, about his vision, and about the vision of this committee. I want to thank you all. I had a joyous week last week with them rehearsing this, and it's so much fun to meet them, to see the future of our world in these wonderful young people. So thank you, Perimeter ambassadors. I would also like once again to recognize Mario's family for laying the groundwork for this incredible opportunity, not only to celebrate Black history, but to honor their loved one and our dear remembered colleague, Dr. Mario Bennekin. Before closing out today's event, I do have a couple of housekeeping notes, including a reminder that we have fantastic symposium sessions scheduled for today, this afternoon. Dr. Dennis Turner is an Atlanta surgeon and the first African-American graduate of Emory's University's residency program. I believe he was the first general surgeon at Emory. He is going to give a presentation about his journey called Growing Up Atlanta, My Story. Dr. Turner also happens to be the father of Perimeter's very own history professor, Dr. Denise Turner. So please support this presentation if you're able. It will take place today, this afternoon at 1 o'clock here on the Dunwoody campus. And I believe it's NB 2100. And yes, the lovely lady, Crystal, in the yellow coat. If you see her, you're in the right place, no matter where you are. You may also watch his presentation online. We have a number of other sessions across Perimeter campuses this week. I encourage you to visit our webpage at perimeter.gsu.edu/Bennekin Symposium. There you'll find a list of all the dynamic in-person and virtual sessions being offered. And we have a large number of students involved in giving presentations this year. So we want to increase that next year, by the way, students. So we do a call in the fall, and we want you to know this is a really low-key focus to get you doing presentations, whether they are creative, scholarly, research, anything. We want you to present. Dr. Bennekin would have wanted that, would have wanted more involvement with students. So we're so pleased that y'all came out this year. We hope you come out again next year. While you are visiting the website, we have a lovely button in the top right-hand corner that says Give Now. And if you have $1, I'm not kidding. If you have $1, $10, $100, $1 million, we would love for you to give us money. And I do mean that. Every dollar helps. Your $5 donation will help us to do this event next year. Nothing in life is cheap anymore. We know that. But this means a lot. This means a lot to a lot of people, and it affects people very strongly. So if you have a little bit left, please give. And if not, we'd love to have you volunteer or just come next year. But we'd love for you to visit the website, hit that Give Now button, and just give whatever your heart allows you to give, and your wallet, of course. Okay, I'm almost done. Students, if you would like to receive credit for attending today, there's a QR code outside sitting on the table that would love attention. You can click on that and your instructor will know that you were here. If you are not a student and you would like to let us know how the event today and the rest of this week goes, we would like your responses to our very short survey. So keep that QR code handy. Give us your response, your feedback for today. We would love your response if you go to another symposium event. We'd like to hear what you think about it. We'd like to hear your ideas. Finally, we want you to join us across the hall momentarily. I think they're probably still setting up, but in a few minutes, we're going to have our reception. We will have Dr. Hobson's books for sale in the library, and that is in building NB, just across the walkway. Our wonderful perimeter ambassadors will show you the way if you'd like to buy that book today at the bookstore. And by the way, they are cheaper than any online discounter I could find except Amazon. So go to the bookstore and buy it because you're going to get the deal. And so that's it. This concludes our 2026 Mario A.J. Bennekin Symposium. Thank you again to Dr. Hobson, to all of you at the Dunwoody campus and online for attending.